Welcome to episode number 84 of the Introvert Biz Growth Podcast, the show where I talk to introverts who grow their business and make a difference. I wonder if it's a typical introvert trait to love traveling. Today I have another episode for you with Michelle, who also loves traveling and has just finished a year on the road, just herself and her dog. Traveling is usually a solitary thing, or at least not a big group thing. So I'm thinking maybe it is a typical introvert thing to do. And the other thing about traveling is you can be with people or surrounded by people, but not necessarily having to engage with them. Like for me, my most favorite thing to do while traveling is sitting at cafes and just watch other people and soak in their culture and soak in their different habits and language and all of that. So anyway, Michelle, my guest today, Michelle Warner, is an online business growth expert who gets entrepreneurs unstuck and back on track to building the businesses of their dreams. She's the creator of the Springboard Method, a framework designed to nurture resilient, sustainable, growth-minded companies. The Springboard Method leverages everything Michelle's learned over the course of building a multimillion-dollar startup in the social venture space, along with her current company and the 20-plus years of experience she has working in and around digital marketing. When Michelle's not obsessing over your business, you can catch her hiking and swimming with Watson, the world's best rescue dog, and spending time in and around her beloved Lake Michigan. So here's my conversation with Michelle. Hi, Michelle. How are you today?
Oh, I'm well. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm delighted to speak to you. I just read the official bio. I want to hear more and more details about you and the introvert running the business, but then also tell us more about your business. And there's this special journey you just came back from. So tell us about that too.
I will. And that's very connected to my introversion, I think.
I know. Right?
I have run this business for 5 years as an online business growth strategist, helping entrepreneurs scale their businesses. Prior to that, I was in a tech startup space, and I've actually been in this digital marketing world in some way or another for 20 plus years. So that's very much who I am. And I think I'm a dinosaur in the industry at this point, but it's also very much tied to my introversion because it works for me. I'm really good as an introvert, either one-on-one or in a one-to-many. I'm not really great in small group settings. That's a struggle for me. And I think that's similar for a lot of introverts. And so this business and how I run my life, I very much designed it around that because I spent a lot of years pretending like corporate was going to be great and I could make that work. But in reality, that being in an office all day was very confining. I would find myself actually not working from 8 to 5 because I was rebelling against it. And I was so mad that someone expected me to be there. And then I would go home at night and have to do all my work. So I just realized that kind of office setting and having people around me all the time and all those constant expectations was really not a good fit. But going off on my own and having my own office and being able to do my own thing. And then when I connected with people, really, really connect with them was a wonderful fit. And so that is the story of my life, is figuring out how to truly know who I am and design my world around that.
Wonderful. So tell us about this journey you went on.
This journey, yeah. So that is another case of designing my world the way I wanted to. I'm a lifelong Chicagoan over here in the US, and I had actually moved to Denver about 10 years ago when I graduated with my MBA. I needed a change of pace from the city, and I wanted to be out in the mountains. And that was fantastic until it wasn't. And it was time. I really missed the water. I missed a lot of different things. And it was time to leave Denver, but I wasn't sure where I wanted to go. I knew some key things. I knew that I now had a business that was stable enough that I could go anywhere, which is good and bad, right? Because sometimes constraints are really helpful things. And all of a sudden I could live anywhere. I knew I missed water very badly. So I wanted to be by water, but I didn't know if that meant the ocean or a lake or what that meant. Again, like I'm thinking about how to design my life, right? I knew I wanted a smaller town, but I knew I had to leave Denver and I was very stuck in Denver, but I just knew these conditions of what I was looking for, but not necessarily where that was. And so I left Denver. I wanted to separate the two things. I didn't want to feel like I was running away from Denver. So I left Denver, packed all my stuff up, put them in storage, and took off across the US trying to find my next home. So in the fall, and I went with my dog. It was just me and my dog, and it was amazing. We spent most of the fall in Maine and Vermont, spent a lot of parts of last summer in Michigan and Wisconsin, in places I had known and loved as a kid growing up. This winter actually spent with my family. It was a really bad winter and kind of got stuck between blizzards. I kept thinking we were going to move on, but it wasn't working out. And now this spring, I'm working on actually moving to Wisconsin, which is not a place at all that I would have guessed when I left Denver that I would end up in. But I found a town right on Lake Michigan, exactly where I want to be. And I feel so at home there. And for the first time while I've been there and stayed there, I thought, wow, I want to and can build a life here as myself without having to meld into everyone else's life and feel like I have to force myself to fit in. So it's been just this incredible experience of giving myself the time to know exactly what I want and then go find it.
That's amazing. Yeah. Tell that story to an extrovert and he'd be like, you did what?
Oh, I know.
No, but I had my dog. But yeah.
Exactly. It was my dog and I. We spent 5 weeks. The place we stayed in Vermont was actually on top of a mountain in a ski community. And we were there in October. So nobody was around. We were just on this top of the mountain by ourselves, which I could not do for more than 5 weeks, but it was perfect right then because that's when it started and it was just silence and the dog and I hanging out, and I got so much perspective during those 5 weeks.
Yeah.
And then it was time to move on to Maine and a little bit more civilization. But yeah, it was exactly what I needed.
That's great. And so all this time your business kept going, or how did you organize that?
It did keep going, and it was one of the best things I've done for my business in years, because I think being stuck in Denver, you start being stuck in business patterns as well, right? Mm-hmm. And so leaving Denver and just being somewhere, I have my business where I really only need to work about half days. I have extra time. So when we got out traveling, I was able to go explore. I was able to go hiking. I was able to see the places we were, and then also come back and get the business done that I needed to get done, and also have time to really have clarity about the direction I'm taking my business. And I've now found a lot of creativity on this trip and have changed some things that I have wanted to change for a while and not been really sure how to do it. So it was good in that my revenue did not grow a ton while I was gone, but that wasn't the point of the trip. But it did stay steady and gave me the creativity to see the next step in my business.
Yeah, that's where this expression, think outside of the box, comes from, right? It's like,
Exactly.
Get out of that box. So.
Yes, go live on top of a mountain by yourself.
Yeah. So let's talk about your business and how you're generating revenue. Tell the listeners how your business is set up. Is it all passive income, or do you work with clients one-on-one? Tell us all about it.
Yeah, so I primarily work with clients one-on-one, or that's what I had previously done. What I've actually become is almost a de facto CEO in the background of a lot of the high-performing, very popular online businesses. I go in there, you have a lot of charismatic entrepreneurs who built something really quickly, but don't necessarily know how to build a business. I've had 10 years of building businesses. I know how to do that. So I go in and help them design their models so that they're more efficient, more scalable, insert some passive income, although I think a lot of passive income is really a myth, but just
Thanks
get their
for
businesses.
Saying that.
Yeah.
Kind of throwing that as bait and see what you say.
No, I don't believe in passive income. I do believe in some evergreen products, but I also believe that behind the scenes of some of those evergreen products, there is a lot of work happening. And so just getting those models set up for people and efficient. But this trip, what really has changed for me is finding a way to do that a little bit more visibly and for a different set of entrepreneurs. I was really hard to afford before. I was expensive, I'm not going to lie. And I really wanted to take what I believe and get it to an entrepreneur at an earlier stage of their business, because what I found was I was fixing a lot of businesses because people believed in passive income, or they believed in some of these myths that were out there. And they had these horrible expectations about what was possible. And I would come in and have to really fix something that was a mess. And I'm like, wait, I need to get this message out before you get to this point when you're not in crisis mode, or it doesn't take years to turn this business around and really get it efficient and working correctly. So that's what I'm focused on now. I am getting the word out to earlier stage entrepreneurs. And the way I'm doing that is I have a new program called Springboard. And that program is an action and accountability hub. So we are bringing people in. It's a lifetime membership, but you come in and you get accountability, you get weekly Q&As from me, you get hot seats, and you get a community helping keep you on track. So it's a little bit of a combination of strategy and coaching and whatever you need to be focused on your top priority right now. So I don't do a curriculum because I work across so many different models that you can come to me, tell me what your model is, and I can help you grow that. So instead of building a specific curriculum and telling you exactly what to do, I have a flexible space where you can come in with your business, tell us about it, and then we will get you whatever you need at this specific moment.
That sounds wonderful. I like that kind of pivot from going after the ones who made it, right? The 6, 7, 8-figure businesses back to basics. That's an interesting move, right? And do you think that has to do with maybe your personal development and your quest for, I don't know, purpose, meaning, something like that?
I think it has to do with a couple of things. I think that is a piece of it because, again, I was getting frustrated. I could help those businesses, but it didn't light me up. It felt like another job, right? Yeah. And I didn't want to be the person fixing messes. I wanted to get in front of it. And at that same time, I just saw the messages that earlier entrepreneurs were getting, and they're just so toxic. And so I thought, I want to be a different voice out there. And that other different voice is developing from a lot of people now. And I give a lot of people credit for that. But I wanted to get in front of that and start showing people there was another way if they want to see it, so that they don't build the wrong business from the start. And instead, they start learning how to navigate their business for themselves. So much of what I see is people almost let courses and coaches become their bosses, and they want these instant results. So they just say, tell me what to do. And then they go do them, and they never actually learn to navigate their business. And so I kind of refuse to tell people what to do. I will point you in the right directions. And when you know where you want to go, I'm going to fill in all the gaps for you to help you get there quickly and efficiently. But I'm not going to look at your business and tell you what you need to do.
Right. Yeah. I think we're all kind of tired of the gurus out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell us, this made me millions, and now here's the recipe, and it's going to cost you $10,000 to get that right.
And especially as entrepreneurs, that's so cruel. And another passion of mine is talking about survivorship bias, because as introverts, we see these messages of the people who made the millions. And a lot of times they had a lot of hidden privileges and advantages that we as introverts don't necessarily have, right? They have mass charisma, or they have something that allowed them to really explode overnight. And it's really hard for me to see introverts think that they can replicate that kind of model, because they probably can't. And there are a million different routes that you can go that you can have equal success. It's a struggle for me to say, like, copy these 10 things and you'll have the same success as I do, because there's just so much of personality and networks and all the rest that go into it that dictate whether or not you can have that same success from following the exact same steps.
Yeah. What we talk about here on this podcast is anxiety-free marketing, right?
Yeah.
Because so many of these gurus, they use these techniques that create anxiety and fear of missing out and less than, and,
Yes.
So yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for doing that work. I think it's so important to, not just for introverts, but conscious entrepreneurs in general who don't want to use similar techniques or they don't have the loudest voice in the room, and they can still, create a business. I'm not using this word, successful business, or try not to use it too much, because again, it depends on how you define success.
Exactly.
And maybe for you, success means traveling around the US for a year, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Whatever sustainable and successful looks like for you, that's what I'm here for.
Yeah, that's great. So let's talk about your introverted superpowers. What would you say is your biggest strength for your business as an introverted entrepreneur?
It probably sounds cliche, but I really think it is just owning that I'm an introvert and knowing that and designing things around that. I think as soon as you start to fight that, that's when you get into trouble. And specifically in this business, that is knowing that I am great one-to-many or one-to-one. And so how can I design those experiences as opposed to a small group environment? Like me leading a retreat? Absolutely not. I would be in a train wreck. But me getting on stage speaking, I've done that a lot. And I absolutely love doing that. Or me being one-on-one with people, I really love doing that. And so how can I design my business to set myself up to do those things?
Right. And then what's still challenging? What are the things that you think that's because I'm an introvert, that this is so hard?
Momentarily wishing that I wasn't one, to be totally honest with you, accepting who I am and seeing things that look fun and that I would love to try, but just knowing that I can't do it and remembering that that's not a great idea for me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I have those moments too. For me, it's more like in addition to being an introvert, I'm a highly sensitive person. And it's mostly that stuff that I'm like, why did I have to cry in front of everybody again?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that that ongoing acceptance of who you are as a person, that's really freaking hard.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Take us to a story, an aha moment that you want to share with the listeners. Can be related to introversion or anything else that you want to share.
I think for me, it was the idea, and I shared it a little bit, of how I wanted to show up in this business and who I could best help. When I started, as I shared, I was working with some of the bigger companies, and I thought that was a fantastic fit for me because I thought, and I know that I actually do love to fix problems. And that was one reason I left my tech startup. So I'd started a traditional technology startup, got it to multimillion-dollar. And I found that once we got to that point and we were starting to have HR conversations and I had customer service people crying in my office, like, that was not a fit for me anymore. I was not interested in growing a business at that level. And what I had really liked were the early days of when everything was a little bit of mess and piecing things together. So when all of a sudden I started this business and I had my hands in a lot of businesses that had a lot of messes, I was like, oh, this is fantastic. I get to fix it all. But the aha moment was, number one, I don't enjoy fixing other people's problems as much. And mostly I don't enjoy fixing them because, number one, it's not serving them because they're not learning how to fix their own problems. And number two, it is creating really unhealthy boundaries. Basically I'm creating a job for myself where my job on retainer as a consultant is to run an entire company. And that was not a good fit. And so that having that aha of, yes, I like very early stages, and yes, I like to fix problems, but I should not put myself in a situation where I'm constantly fixing other people's problems at that type of scale where I'm the one responsible for them and they are really outsourcing all decision making of their business to me, realizing that strength I have, I should not actually be marketing in the way that I was because I am hurting their businesses by showing up and doing my best job. Because me doing my best job means they are able to abdicate any responsibility and don't have to step up as CEOs. And so therefore, if they're never learning how to make these decisions, am I actually helping?
Yeah, that's such great insight here. And I know I have struggled with that in the past too, where you feel like you're responsible for them almost. And then it's like, well, I want to get your results, but you're not doing the work. So how can I get your results if you're just waiting for me to do everything?
Yeah, you're not doing the work. And not only that, I have created a package that tells you don't have to do the work. And just realizing like I'm really doing you a disservice because I can guide you and I can mentor you. But if this is going to be your business, you need to dig in here and you don't need to outsource your CEO role.
Yeah. And that's the great role of being a coach, is like actually empowering them, right? Making sure that they are the CEO. Yeah.
It is. And that's something I've had to wrap my brain around in a big way too, because I came into this and I was very uncomfortable with the label coach. I still am in many ways. And I was very clear, like, I'm a strategist and I will figure this out for you. But I have learned the hard way that I need to be more of a coach and I need to lean into that side of it and help guide people. And again, once I accepted that, it was funny. I started having conversations with people and they would say, oh my gosh, you're the best coach I've ever spoken to. And I'm like, I'm not a coach. Don't call me that. But realizing that I do have those skills inside of me and needing to cultivate them.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder how introversion plays into that, because sometimes what's interesting is sometimes we think of ourselves differently than other people see us, right? And so it's interesting that they saw you as a coach and you're like, no, but I'm not a coach.
Exactly. It is interesting. And I think with introversion, what it comes down to is I should list this as one of my introvert superpowers. I'm a really good listener. And so I don't I'm certainly not trained as a coach, and I don't see that as a coaching skill, but I think it is because I really, when I'm out with my friends, having dinner or whatever, I sit back and I watch what everyone's doing and I listen to what everyone's doing. And instead of leading the conversation. And when you're doing that, you pick up on subtle things that people don't even realize that they're doing themselves. And so then when you're in a position to be pointing that out to people and mirroring it back, that does make you a powerful coach.
Exactly. You just need to drop a few lines of because you analyze the situation to that. You're like, oh, they did this and they did that. Yep. Oh, here it is. and then they go dig deep and do the work, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Wonderful.
So that is a process I am coming around to.
Yeah, that's great. Let's talk about marketing with integrity. We kind of alluded to it offline. This is kind of a big topic, and I'm moving more into that after the summer. So I would like to know from you what that brings up when I say marketing with integrity and how you do that in your own business.
It brings up alignment. Because I do work across so many different business models and plans, I see the gross marketing, or what I would consider gross marketing, and I'm guessing a lot of you and your listeners would consider that. It doesn't really annoy me any longer because, I'm not prone to it anymore. It doesn't work on me anymore. So it doesn't annoy me. I just kind of see it and move on. But what it does show to me is that having seen as many businesses as I do, is I realize that when you're in alignment, you don't need to do that kind of marketing. You do need to help people make decisions because people just don't make decisions right now. So some of the scarcity, some of the decision-making techniques, I do believe need to be there, but they can be there in a nice way that is helpful to people and that is not a timing clock that is running down in your face and threatening you that you will never see this offer again. So I think it's about finding a combination of what people do need from a psychological standpoint. And the way I approach that in my marketing is I look at who do I know is perfect for my offer, and I know that their financial situation is such that they can afford it. I know that they should be in this program. And if they're not signing up because of something that looks like just putting off making the decision, then I'm not scared to push a little bit. And I think that those are the lines that you need to know. Is you need to know exactly who should be in your programs and what do you need to help them make a decision. And so that's the line that I try to take, because I will say as introverts, and introverts don't love to hear this, but I'm going to be a little tough love here. If you never push yourself a little bit beyond the point of being uncomfortable with your marketing, you're really not doing enough because nobody wants to market. So if you're not pushing yourself a little bit, then I think you might have some problems. But it is knowing that line. And that's where I come back to alignment. Because if you know exactly who's supposed to be in your program, you know exactly how to push in an appropriate way. And also you don't have to push as much because they just show up. So right now I'll use an example, the Springboard program I just described to you. I wanted to open it to a core group of people who I knew were perfect. I didn't want to do a loud launch because I just wanted to get a core group of people in. Let's get going and let's, kind of create it together. And so I went out and personally invited, I had done 100 free phone calls over the course of traveling to kind of discover where the business should go. I said I would do 100. I ended up doing 87 of them. So I looked at those 87 people and I thought, who's perfect for this? Because they really were the inspiration for the program, right? Like, okay, who of the 87 are perfect for this? Whom of my current clients are perfect for this? I made a list. I personally invited all of them over email to do it. I got into conversations with them, and again, like pushed a little bit when I needed to push a little bit. Like I had a lifetime charter membership. And so there was a good incentive to sign up early, but I was only offering that to my perfect people. It's not like I was putting out this huge monetary incentive to get in and like threatening people I didn't even know that it was going away the next day. I was giving it to my best people and saying, hey, I want you to come in, start a community with me, help craft it for me. And to do that, I'm going to offer you lifetime charter membership. You'll never have a monthly fee. Are you in or not? And that felt good to me because they were perfect. It was a hand curated list. I would not have felt comfortable screaming that offer from the rooftops to people I didn't know. That would have felt spammy. And those are the lines I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's really good. I think what is really important is what you just said. It felt good to you.
Right.
And oftentimes the reason introverts are not doing their marketing because it does not feel good to them, because they're
Yep.
using templates and
Exactly.
lists of how you should be doing it, and they're all the wrong stuff that don't feel
Yep.
good to introverts. And so
Yep.
I'm so glad you just kind of went through the process and you're like, well, you need to know exactly who this is
Yes.
for. And then it feels like you're coming from a place of service rather than from
Yep.
this place of selling and pushing and, using
Exactly.
scarcity and all of that. So,
And I think you can also build confidence with your offers. Again, for this, I had 3 groups of my perfect people. They were all perfect, but they were also like levels of confidence that I had in that they would buy. And so the first day I emailed my highest confidence group, and they all came back and said, this is the most incredible thing. I'm in. People were buying within 30 seconds. So that helped me feel good about it. Because
right.
even though people, and this is where I'm talking about getting a little uncomfortable as well, because even though I had perfect people to invite, I'm not going to lie and tell you it wasn't a little uncomfortable emailing them, right? And that's the introvert piece, is you're like, oh my God, I have a new offer. Is anyone going to like this? Is anyone going to buy? So I set myself up for success. And I was like, okay, the first day I'm going to email 10 who I know are going to be a yes, and I'm going to get that feedback back. And then that is going to give me the courage to invite the next group tomorrow. And then when that
a lot.
yeah, when that group, who was slightly, less of an obvious to me, but still perfect for the program, when they came back with the feedback, then I had the courage to email the next group the next day. So I think you're just looking to set yourself up for success so that you can be a little uncomfortable and navigate those gray areas. Because again, like, we think it's an either or. We think either marketing is horrible and I'm never going to do it. So like the introverts never show up with marketing, because the only other option is to go all the way to this really gross stuff. And it's like, no, there's a space in between where you can market with integrity.
Yeah. However, what you just said, Michelle, as well, it's like you don't even pay attention to it anymore, all this gross marketing, because that's all we see. Like that, you're the exception, right? And so it's so understandable that people are like, marketing is gross, because that's all we see.
Yeah.
And so I'm so glad that there's, people like you who show up and say, no, this is how it's done. And no, you don't actually show up and say, this is how it's done, but this is how we could do it and it would feel better. So I think there's just not enough examples for us to imitate those kind of examples, but there's tons of the bad examples. And so that's why marketing has such a bad rep for introverts. Yeah.
That is a really good point. And that just sums up why I decided I needed to be more visible, because I was behind the scenes watching all this happen. And I'm like, this is so unfair, the messages that are getting to people, because there are other ways. And I was sitting here running big businesses that were doing it correctly. The businesses I was running were not marketing that way and were still wildly successful.
Right.
So I just want to spread that word. And that also comes back to alignment, because when you're in alignment with your offers, you can look at some of that gross marketing and see people who are desperate and scared and not in alignment with their offers. And that's the way I choose to look at it now. And I think, wow, I don't want that. So how can I go deeper and know my market better and know exactly what I need to create for them so I can feel confident, and then I don't have to do that.
Yeah, totally. You can almost see the fear in people who are marketing in that aggressive way, right? They're just, they're in this scarcity mindset. And so obviously, if you're not thinking that there's enough, well, then you're going to push and push and push.
Yeah, exactly. And some of them are just jerks and just are okay with doing that. But a lot of people do just see the information and think that's the way they have to do it. And it's so at alignment for them that it's just sad to see it all happening, and it just doesn't need to. So thank you for building this platform too, to be talking about it, because it's just so important.
The thing is, change doesn't happen unless things are really bad.
Yeah.
And it's been okay, for the last 10 years. You have 20 years in this online space. I have over 10 years. It's been okay. But I would say for me, it was about the last 3 years, every year, more and more. And I've been using those techniques in my own business. Mm-hmm. So I know how it feels, right? So every year I felt less and less in integrity. And we need that in order to create a paradigm shift, because otherwise things, are pretty okay. So why would we change them? But I see more and more signs that things are not okay anymore. And that's when we're ready to change things.
Yep, I agree. And I think that just comes with the market growing up and getting saturated and filling up. Then those tactics, you get to a critical mass of people who are using them and they don't work anymore.
I know. And you have to keep, like, right now you're getting these emails from, everybody's promoting the same kind of programs. And so you just see, oh, this person is adding this sign-up bonus and this person is adding another bigger sign-up bonus. Yep. It's like, really? How far can we take this?
It is really interesting. If you want to nerd out for a second, this is actually there's 5 steps of market sophistication that have been defined, how any kind of market sophisticates. And it's really interesting. The reason this is happening is because we're shifting from stage 2 to stage 3. And this is actually a really predictable pattern that's happening, and it happens across every industry. So it's fascinating to watch it from my perspective, because what's going on is stage 2 is kind of the Wild West, where everyone believes everything is possible. And so everyone zooms into the market, tries all the stuff that the first movers tried in stage 1 and it worked. And so you get this just mass market of people doing all the things and doing them poorly. But then stage 3 is when the cream rises to the top and a lot of people fall away, and it becomes the people who actually know how to run a business, stick around for stage 3. And so it's fun for me to watch this surge of stage 3 people kind of rising to the top right now and saying, hey, this isn't okay. We need to change.
Right.
And that is going to create a big shift in the market. And I am here for it.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you so much. This has been a wonderful conversation. So deep, just the way we really like them, right?
Thank you for having it. I tend to go deep quickly. So
that's what we do.
I like it.
I always have the last question. It's kind of a woo-woo question, but what are you grateful for today or this week, Michelle?
This week I'm really in the depths of finalizing my move to Wisconsin. And so I am deeply grateful for finding that place that when I walked into the town, I thought I can build a life here, and I'm excited to build a life here, because that is not a feeling I've had before. So I'm feeling a lot of gratitude for that this week.
That sounds wonderful. Yeah, I'm looking forward to pictures. I'm hoping you will send me some pictures. I have this vision of the lake and this little quaint village.
That's exactly what it is. And there are dunes. I will send you pictures of my adorable dog running on the dunes.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me, Michelle.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been fun.
Thank you. That's it for this episode of the Introvert Biz Growth Podcast. Please do go check out Michelle's website at themichellewarner.com. And she also has a free Profit Boost quiz for you at themichellewarner.com/quiz. And this quiz will show you what you need to be prioritizing in your business right now to boost your revenue and profit. As always, you'll find this episode's show notes at sarahsanacroce.com/episode 84. And just a quick reminder, as of August 30th, you'll find your favorite show under a new name and brand, which is the Gentle Business Revolution show. But next week, I have one final episode for you under the Introvert Biz Growth brand, and it's one that you really don't want to miss. It's with a guest that has been on my wish list since day one, and I'm absolutely thrilled that I get to close this chapter with an interview with him. Not giving away more, so tune in again next week. See you soon.